Well, everybody, here we are, a movie night so soon after the previous one. Can you believe it? I can believe it. I'm always on schedule, I'm always on time, and I'm trying to go to secondary ENT, but I'm pressing the wrong keys. That almost didn't rhyme. So, today, as promised, we are doing Oppenheimer. I went to a theater for a theater-related experience. Incredible stuff. This is our 14th episode of Movie Night. We nearly got 40 views on our last one. Isn't that incredible? And it was exactly 7 days ago as I'm recording,
because I
and I
don't
probably
really
won't
have
get it out in
much to...
time. And I think I've got my desktop audio on, so you probably just heard that for a second. Isn't that fun? Also, hopefully the gain isn't turned up too high. Let me check. It isn't for most of this video. Where do we start from here? Where do we go? I think this is where we usually show Letterboxd, and I bring the thing up. It's another fucking 4-star movie, believe it or not. Every fucking movie night yields a 4-star movie. No, we're still on a hunt for our next 5-star movie. Something cool is that Oppenheimer is now the most recent movie on my Letterboxd for like fucking a year and a half. It's been Blonde. Even after Sun couldn't topple Blonde. I must have watched Blonde right after it came out, right? That's when movie night just started. That's incredible. But Oppenheimer is now here, 2023. I think it might be the only 2023 piece of media I've consumed. I don't want to bring up the Twitter thread to check that exactly, but there's been no Pokemon games this year, right? Scarlet came out last year, I think. Crazy. Isn't that funny? I guess we usually talk about what movie we're going to do next, but I haven't entirely decided, but I think it's going to be... I found another World War II movie. It was some French movie. I don't even know how I found this fucking movie. Oh, I recall. I was on Twitter, and it was like the best sex scenes in movies, and somebody linked this one. It's some French movie called Hiroshima Mon Amour, which is also about World War II and the bomb, so it's like it's on topic and stuff. But no, it's got a 4.2 on Letterboxd. Everybody seems to love it. And it's going to make up for In the Mood for Love having no sex and no kissing. Hopefully. Maybe. Perhaps. We'll have to see. I think that's what we're doing next. So I'm going to do the big Oppenheimer review, which is what you're listening to right now, and get all the big views because it's a movie people actually care about. And then we're going to do some weird art French film from the 50s, 1959. It'll be crazy. It'll be great. I'm doing this shit movie to make up for doing good movies in the future, huh? Too bad you, stinky, smelly audience member, only care about the bad movies. Oppenheimer's not a bad movie. I kind of got a sneeze, but it just appeared and then disappeared. So that's annoying and very relatable. You're nodding along at my witty anecdotes right now because you're all fucking idiots. Where do we begin? How do we begin? What do we do? It surely was a theater experience. Outside of that, there's really nothing to say. I don't even think I know what IMAX is. I don't think I saw it in IMAX, though I don't know. One thing I did know is because I did watch the Red Letter Media review of this like a month before I saw the movie, because of course I saw the movie late. And they pointed out the thing about how the movie doesn't take up the full screen. And I know they've talked about that in the past, and I guess the last movie I saw was Spider-Man 2 years ago, so I don't know if that was the case with that movie. But I noticed it this time, so that might be something I can't unnotice into the future, and in which case, fuck Red Letter Media, you know what I'm saying? But honestly, after 2 minutes, I stopped noticing. Also, we had to rush home after the movie, so I didn't get to sit there and watch the credits for 5 minutes, which ruined the entire experience, so I hated that. Though there is because I'm always talking about that. Watching the credits after the movie is the best part, is you slowly reminisce, you understand what you're feeling, you understand what you think. It's all coming together, it's just you stewing in it. It's just the greatest feeling of all time. You're just thinking, listening to some cool theme music. What a time to be alive. The only reason to watch movies. There is an equally interesting experience, and I feel like this only works if you see a movie in the evening. I guess it's been so long since I've seen a movie in the daytime. Though I had this experience the most with Winter Soldier, and I feel like coming out and it was all sunny and like your eyes readjusting to that. But you come out of the theater and it's like kind of quiet or whatever, and people are maybe murmuring. You walk out, you do the long walk out to the fucking main entrance of the theater, and then readjusting to reality is another very interesting, surreal, very like you're thinking a lot experience. It might be even better than the sitting to watch the credits. Though if you can sit and watch the credits in the theater and then do that, then that's the best of both worlds. Sadly, I didn't get to do that this time. So that's an interesting experience. I probably told the Winter Soldier anecdote about the first time I saw a movie that was like good in the theater, and I was like 13, so I could understand, or I might have even been 12, so I could like understand what going to the movies is or whatever, and it wasn't an animated movie or something. And coming out of that, I was just like shocked, and readjusting to reality was like crazy, bro. But that was a hell of an experience. It wasn't quite to that level. But there's that, and then you walk into the car and everything. I don't know. It's a fun experience. That's what do you call it? Natural, indigenous. That's can only be found in the theater-going experience. So we probably should have brought that up since we hyped up going to the theater last time, and on Twitter. But in the end, let's talk about the movie itself, I guess, now. We've got old Oppenheimer here at 4 stars. I already said that. Continue without supporting. My goodness, I have to click this every time. Oh my goodness, 4.3 on Letterboxd. The people really like Oppenheimer, it seems. It is interesting. It was a fun movie, you know. Had I no idea the wife was Emily Blunt. That's crazy, bro. The rest of them, I'm pretty sure I had figured out, you know. I'm pretty fucking smart and stuff. Now, this Cillian Murphy fella, I've seen him in the Batman movies. I didn't recognize him at all because I don't remember those shit Batman movies really at all. But apparently he's Scarecrow, and apparently Scarecrow is in all of them. Also, his image on Letterboxd looks weird. He's like some old man in Oppenheimer. I guess everybody's way older than they're supposed to be, or than they actually are in Oppenheimer, so I shouldn't judge him for it particularly. When Robert Downey Jr. looks like he's 65, and I'm pretty sure he's not that old yet. How old is this Cillian Murphy idiot? It doesn't say on this Letterboxd thing. That's pissing me off. Now I got a little left click search in Google. Then is a 47. Okay. He's you know, you know. But yeah, nobody remembers Scarecrow from these shit Batman movies that nobody cares about. So yeah, I hadn't seen him in nothing really. He's in a bunch of other movies. Inception, I know I kind of watched that movie one time. Couldn't tell you a goddamn thing about it. The thing spins or something and you go into dreams. But yeah, why was I bringing that up? Oh yeah, I didn't recognize him or whatever. Oh, it was the Emily Blunt thing that got us to this. So obviously, for those who don't know, Oppenheimer is about like making an atomic bomb and the fella that did it, etc. Interesting. It is 3 hours long, which is sick. I wasn't really bored at any point, so that's pretty good. It is interesting when you got these... I'm yawning today. These big tentpole movies, and everybody on my Letterboxd here is got reviews here. Kraftwerk, giving it 4.5 stars. Elite RE, no, that's Mr. R. I just saw the non-profile picture person. I was like, oh, it has to be RE. But it was Mr. R, giving it 5 stars. This Taylor Williams dude who didn't like Blonde, so we hate him, gave it 3 stars. That's the lowest review on here. Anywho. Not me, I gave it 4 stars, Lamau. There's... another massive problem with the fact that this is a theater movie is you can't watch it online, or at least not... You probably can, right? There's probably rips or something, but I didn't. And because I would look on YouTube and see if any scenes would be uploaded, and obviously they hadn't. There's some like shitty theater reaction videos to like the last scene, so that's pretty soy, bro. So I feel like I have to see this movie again, but I'm not going back to the fucking theater to see it. If it was one of these movies that we usually do on movie night that's been out for 50 years, you can just go back and skim through the video again to see any key parts to refresh yourselves and be like, oh, that's what's happening. Now, the movie is a little confusing, especially in the moment, but afterwards you largely get it because we are skipping through time and it's hard to figure out, because there's obviously the big meeting at like the circular table that I don't think I realized was after the war. I thought it was like a meeting during the war when somebody else had got... Well, first of all, I don't know that much about the bomb's history. I thought all atomic bombs were hydrogen bombs. Turns out that's like the next level of bomb afterwards. That probably the other dude that it was mean to him and the wife doesn't shake the hand of, I think he probably ends up making it because he's talking throughout the whole fucking movie about how he wants to make that. I'm like, oh, at some point they're going to realize he's right and that's how they're going to figure it out. But that's not what happened. That's going to be for the future, etc. Oh yeah, so that in my head when they were talking about that at the round table, placed the round table before it. Now let me remember my U.S. presidents. Truman. Let's look this up. The Truman Show better not come up. Yeah, so he starts, because they mentioned him in that scene, but he's the post-war president. So if I had known that better, or picked up on that better, I would have known that it would have had to have been after the war. I always forget which one. Eisenhower's after Truman, right? Because he's at the beginning of Mad Men. See, I know U.S. presidents through Mad Men mostly. And obviously they have the Kennedy mention, bro. It's pretty cool. He was preceded by Roosevelt as the fucking war president. Now, does he die in office or something, right? And then there's Churchill, but he's English, and I'm pretty sure that's World War One. They're a bunch of dudes, and I think they both died or something in fucking office or something. But yeah. I'm trying to see. Wikipedia has the like preceded by thing like it has with the wrestlings. Anyway, but then Eisenhower, then Kennedy, then Kennedy's vice president, Johnson. I know all this stuff. And then Nixon. And then he gets kicked out. And then the one after Nixon is the farmer dude, right? No, this is Ford. I don't remember Ford. Jimmy Carter. Now, that's the farmer dude. And then we're into Bush 1, right? No, Reagan, then Bush 1, right? Oh, I'm just so good at this. And then Clinton, and then Bush again, and then Obama, then Donald Trump, then Joe Biden. I got it all memorized. So anyway, that should have helped with context clues to, for me to figure out that this fucking scene was after the war and shit. But there were some confusing moments like that. Because we're jumping through time quite a bit. And obviously there's the Strauss stuff at the academy or whatever where Einstein's living or something, and that's even after that, I think. Or maybe it is before that, but that's some point after the war too. And we're cutting around a bit so we can set the final scene up, etc., etc. I don't know why I started on the confusing stuff. It's not that confusing. Everybody figured it out. They make bomb. You cheer as they make bomb. Then you think afterwards, oh no, we made bomb. We got it. Easy to follow. I guess that's the problem with the review we're going to be doing, is that it's hard to think of specifics. Like, what the middle part of the movie, I feel like I've forgotten entirely. So there's kind of only, because I don't know if I have anything unique really to say. There's two things really. There's one thing that is the movie has going for it the sort of organizational / development porn of like, well, first of all, initially you have sort of the heist movie meme that Mad Men season 3 episode 13 does exceptionally well, where you're like assembling the team full of like characters we've kind of known. And obviously in Mad Men you know the characters for like 3 seasons up to that point, so it's a bigger payoff than silly Oppenheimer here, where you've seen certain characters for a scene, or they might even be getting introduced as they're brought on board, etc. It is cool nonetheless to like assemble a team for the super secret mission, and you're all got to do this, and there's cool scenes of him convincing people to join and the general getting mad, etc., and that's funny, and they have a cute little dynamic, etc., etc. Plus there's that where it's like the team assembly. Then there's also like the figuring stuff out and the reactions to figuring stuff out and people being amazed at the power of science, etc., etc. And that sort of team dynamic of everybody like coming together or focusing on one problem, all trying to figure it out, all trying different ways and stuff like that. I always go to Steins Gate as my example for this, where especially the early episodes of Steins Gate, you know, when the show was good for like the first 12 episodes. God, I'm such a contrarian. I'm so smart. I got such a big brain. Big brain? I am recording, right? Yes, we got the little red light. What are you freaking out about, Chad? We're fucking recording. So yeah, Steins Gate has that at the beginning, where it's sort of like they accidentally make time machine. They're trying to figure out how the fuck they just made this time machine, what it means, what's happening. There's mysterious things. There's a lot of character drama, etc., etc. We're setting things up for when things get really dramatic after that episode 12 point. It's fantastic. It's great. I did have a moment like this when I was like first in high school. I feel like I've told this anecdote somewhere too, where there was a fake Facebook account for one person we like knew generally. It was actually most of my primary school. This was like primary school drama, but we were in high school, and I remember there was sort of a massive group chat thingy to try and figure out who was faking the account or something. And everybody trying to brainstorm and collect evidence, etc., of conversations they had had with the catfish account slash like their screenshot. Their cover photo was a screenshot, and you could see that it was like a Samsung phone because of like the UI, and people trying to recall who had Samsung and who had iPhones. It's like that happened for like a night and a half, and that was the investigation type aspect of that, etc., was very exciting. And when I watched Steins Gate, I was like, oh my god, this is like that. And I would have watched Steins Gate like later that year, because I watched Steins Gate when I was like 12, bro, because I was pretty cool and I knew science and stuff, and I was pretty smart and I could follow the plot. Yeah, I'm just flexing over here. But that type of like, because it really, elsewhere in life, where would you even get that feeling unless you become a scientist working on a project like this, which I guess could be a good motivator to get kids to do science or something. Like at work, you really don't do. I guess some people probably do. That's just very interesting and fun to watch, and a great dynamic to have, and to see their characters playing off each other as they try to figure things out. There's just a marveling at what the characters are doing type porn to that I think is very appealing. I'm sure there's a million other movies like this too. And I don't think I'm explaining or capturing the feeling very well through this explanation, but that's what usually happens with me. You understand. This isn't a scripted video. But that is probably the biggest strength of the movie. Besides that, Cillian Murphy, or whatever the fuck his name is very good at acting in this movie. Everybody wants to talk about how he acts with his eyes, etc., or behind the eyes, and it is very good. I suppose this gets into the biggest complaint with the movie, is that the movie is very soy. I was explaining this to Bacon last night after we recorded Mushoku Tensei, that great show. Oppenheimer, Mushoku Tensei, a lot in common. Now, what do we mean by soy? I think the main character's demeanor, and I've just realized this, is part of the soy, though it is cool. When we're saying soy here, by we, I mean me. It's not a lack of self-awareness. It's not a corniness. It's somewhere in between those. And the only term I can come up with to describe it is soy. Like the ending of the movie, and part of the cool part is that the soy moments all work enough. But they're also hold it back from being really cool. It might be like a poppy thing, like a popular, in pop music, but pop movie thingy. There's something about it. Because, again, the only other Nolan movie I've seen or have seen are the Batman movies and Inception, which I don't remember nearly anything from. I watched Dark Knight, I guess, relatively recently, as in the last 5 years. And all I remember is that movie was so fucking quick, and it's just bolstering through things. What word am I looking for there? It's bussing through things. I think he might be like this, though, from what I recall. So it might be his style of filmmaking, which is interesting. I was building up to an example of the soyness. Oh, the ending. So it's kind of like a thing you almost can't do, is have the corny ending to the atomic bomb movie be like an ominous, foreboding warning that we're going to blow up the Earth. Soy, yes, no shit. This is the easiest emotional tug thingy or whatever in the world. But to do it, there's almost a balls there to do the most generic, corny thing possible. and kind of pull it off because he ties it into Einstein, which the way they use Einstein in the movie is another aspect of the soy. But it's so cool that it's just like this Einstein fella you kind of heard of in class one time and don't really know anything about, and sometimes you think is like a character from a book or something, but he's actually a real dude. And he was alive in World War II. You would have thought he was alive in like the 1800s or something, etc. It's just like general perception of Einstein. Seems like a Bible character almost. He's even got a weird name, but it's a Jewish name, I guess. A lot of Jewish people in the Bible, I think. What was my point there? Oh, the ending, and then we see like all the warheads shooting up into the sky or whatever, and it's just the most soy thing imaginable. Because this is something like Devilman, which we recently talked about with Elite RE, I think on his channel. I don't think it's on this channel. So to tie this into everything, Devilman kind of does that, where it's like, it does the people are so mean and stuff, they'll end up killing each other and ending the world, Lamau, type message. But Devilman is so corny and is so like 70s and in itself, and that it almost makes, like, obviously I like Devilman more than I like Oppenheimer here, so obviously I think it's really cool. But it's like almost, Devilman's charm is almost in it being a product of its time. I think we're past the point where everybody realizes, well, we're probably not going to blow ourselves up with nukes. It's probably not going to happen. There's not really any incentives for anybody to do this, and it's not like the technology's new, etc. I don't know. It feels like a hollow warning from like 50 years ago. For that to sort of end up being the main theme of the movie. But even then, like another really like sort of corny plain thing. It's not corny. It's not plain. Might be a good like obvious, because generic is too harsh of a word. Like milk toast, middle of the road, normal thing. They literally have a visual metaphor in the movie that is rippling water, and it's like, oh, that's like the first idea a film student has in like when they're like in grade 7 or something. Like the movie opens on rippling water and then it closes on rippling water, and obviously it's like a chain reaction type thingy, and it's like the bombs type thingy, and it all plays in visually. And I kind of like it, even though it's so simple. Simple might have been the word we're looking for. I think that is the exact word we've been looking throughout this entire talk here. It is very simple. Literally the simplest metaphor, the water ripples as you touch it in the bath when you're 4 years old and you watch it mesmerized, and then it reoccurs throughout your life and you think about it. Though I don't think Oppenheimer is trying to make a like, oh, poignancy in your most grounded, or not grounded, but most, not informal, formative moments when you're a little kid. I've lost my place again. Oh yeah, to start and end the movie with that, that's another thing of like, it's very simple like that. And even throughout it, like the movie is a build up to the big explosion spectacle when they test the bomb in the Trinity thingy. But again, it all this works really well, like to a 4-star degree. But it's almost like these are ideas and sentiments and everything that everybody's heard a million times, right? So that kind of holds it back. Plus, it is kind of annoying. I'm clicking on like the OST and shit, and I'm seeing people quote, "I believe we did," and like, "Oh my god, I got chills, bro." And it's like, did you? Are you really that stupid? Are you really that easily manipulated? But the point is, it is kind of cool. But it's kind of cool in a like, oh, I can't believe they actually went through with that and had him say that, Lamau. I think the character moment, like, it's always good because it is a recontextualization moment, and you know me, I love that shit more than crack cocaine. But because obviously we see that scene earlier, and Einstein walks off, and initially like, oh, he doesn't like Oppenheimer. That's not cool. Fuck you, Einstein. He's our main character right now. And then Strauss thinks it's like, oh, Oppenheimer's turned him against him. And obviously the recontextualization is at the end is that Einstein is mad about like, oh, we kind of might have doomed the world, etc. But it's also revealed they weren't talking about Strauss at all. That's clever and cute and plays into his character arc, etc. But also even he's having like villain monologues to his like help, who slowly turn on him and realize that when they realize the truth and think something is unjust. And that little help dude even has a line where he's like, to do what's right, and then he has to correct himself what he thinks is right or whatever, and it's just like, oh, it's so soy, it's so simple. It's like, oh yes, this is exactly how this scene has to play out with these characters in this situation, uh, for the most simple of movies to happen. But it's all fine. It's all good. Like, I like every one of these things individually. I like. I guess it pisses me off when people are pretending it's like genius or new or something, and it's like the most simple thing in the world. But I liked Oppenheimer. What are we complaining about here? There are other examples of this, but I think I've forgotten. Oh, there's another thing where, like, every time Oppenheimer seduces a girl in the movie, it's always through some science or like smart related thing where it's like, what, like he's holding I can't remember if it's his wife's hand or it's somebody else, where I think it might be his friend's wife that he ends up sleeping with or whatever, where like he's holding their hands and it's like how we form matter or something, or perceive it, that there's solid objects, or he's grabbing her hand or something. It's like seductive, because that's like the generic movie trope thingy, right? The scientist dude that gets laid a lot, the women love him because he's so smart. And even the girl that ends up killing herself, like, gets turned on by him reading, like, or translating the scripture or whatever he's doing. It's just like, yeah. It's not generic. Simple doesn't even apply as well, but it just is like, oh, the thing you've seen before, or like, I feel like we've iterated on all these ideas so much. Like, you can't just do the original ideas and think we're fine and we haven't seen it a million times or seen the iterations of it a million times. And it's not like Oppenheimer is making a point to be like, oh, we're going back to the grassroots of these tropes or whatever to point out how we don't really need the iterations and that the core storytelling tenets are actually good or something. It just is kind of doing it because it's a poppy movie. But even that in and of itself is kind of fascinating. Again, I would really like to rewatch these scenes and see if my perception of them is still the same. Also, after the case, right, I've watched like 3 YouTube videos on the life of Oppenheimer or whatever, and I've seen the fucking actual dude say the become death quote and stuff. So I would like to go back and see, because I know he says that in the movie, and obviously I recognize the saying. I assume it was popularized by the actual Oppenheimer interview that you can find on the internet, or you've seen shorts of everywhere. I think they might say it in Uncharted Lost Legacy, probably, because obviously with Chloe and we're in India, etc. And we're talking a lot about Indian mythology. Or Hindu mythology, I guess. So I'd heard that somewhere before, like, oh, that's the line. And at first, I thought that was another sort of soy thing, but it's so cool. It's like the coolest line ever, so less so. And again, all these individual elements really work. So in that, I was like surprised at the balls they had to put that line be in it. But I guess it is like an Oppenheimer line, so they had to have that in there at some point. I just didn't have the cultural context for where it actually had been popularized from, you know what I'm saying, or trying to say. But yeah, there's a million other examples where it's, I wish Minty had seen this movie, because Minty would understand my complaints right now. I feel like everybody else is just going to be like, oh, whatever, it was just a classical movie. Or you're thinking too much about this. No, you fucking morons, put your thinking cap on. But yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything to say. His fat friend was cool, but even that, like that character, it's like, oh, it's the fat friend character that's got his head on straight, etc., etc. And the build up to whether or not his wife would fuck him over in the rigged meeting or whatever, and then she starts picking apart and being naggy to the opposing lawyer dude. That's a great moment. I also think his guilt after the fact is played so straight and generic as well, where it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm too madman pilled where nobody ever feels bad about anything, because obviously they wouldn't, because people don't feel bad about anything or have any regrets, or et cetera, et cetera. It's like Don Draper never feels bad about selling cigarettes and killing more people than Oppenheimer over here. To go back to somebody who does have regrets, like genuinely, I don't know, there's like a bullshit meter that goes off and be like, people don't actually act like this. So it feels like in genuine, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Inhuman in something. He did make these atomic bombs though, so I guess you got something to feel guilty about sometimes. Who knows? I guess another thing I was thinking about throughout the movie is to tie it back into movie night episodes. Obviously, we watched Japan's Longest Day a few movie nights ago. Probably more than a few, huh? And obviously, that's about the Japanese surrender in World War II. I was like, oh, that's going on right now in this movie. Isn't that crazy? And they do have the ominous shot of the two bombs like leaving Los Alamos and going out on the trucks, and that's cool and stuff. But yeah, the Japan's Longest Day thing was in my head a lot. Very differently portrayed type situations. Am I reaching for things? Oh, to somewhat shift gears majorly, there's an epic rap battle of history between Thanos and J. Robert Oppenheimer. And I saw the thumbnail and I'm like, epic rap battles of history. I haven't watched one of these things in 12 years. They have to be terrible, right? They have to be the worst things to ever exist. There's no way it isn't very, very corny and terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And this fucking thing starts, and the Thanos part is terrible. He like looks really weird in the video because I don't know if they have the CGI look bad because it's a joke, or if it's actually just they tried to do it and couldn't pull it off. This is from like 3 years ago, so it's relatively recently. Who knew who Oppenheimer was? Before last month, Lamau. And it's obviously been getting a lot of views recently. That's why it was in my recommended. So Thanos starts rapping, and you're like, oh yeah, this is kind of generic and kind of bad and kind of corny a little bit. But then the Oppenheimer dude starts, which is one of the main dudes. I think they are both still the main dudes from the rap battle thingy. And they have the filter over his voice that makes it seem like some old recording, just like the fucking I Am Become Death clip online. And it's actually really good, and it's like hilarious, and the delivery is also really good, and like obviously he's playing up the regretful, painful voice and eyes thing, but it's actually really funny, and like I couldn't believe that it was actually kind of good. And then even the next Thanos line is verse is pretty good. Remember epic rap battles of history? I can't believe they aren't obviously terrible. But yes, everybody's been going down the Oppenheimer YouTube rabbit hole, I'm sure. Well, probably everybody else did a month ago. When did the movie actually come out? Release date. Australia. Are we still releasing things at different times depending on the fucking place? So it only came out on the 20th. Oh, it's a month ago exactly in Australia. America. Let's see what the release date was. The day after. Lamau, get wrecked, American kids. We got it first. Not me, though. I watched it a month later. How long have we been going? Only 30 minutes. There's no way there's only 30 minutes. Oh, there was some cool visual stuff. I'm thinking because now I've just... First of all, I couldn't find a good fucking image to save my life to have this fucking movie night be about. Or have in the background of this movie night. But there were... one of the cool visual metaphor that they did have is they have like the stomping, and it sort of it reverberates throughout the movie, and then at some point it's revealed that it's the stomping from like their celebration thingy or party after they've finished the test or whatever. So that was a good little tie through that's sort of been haunting him, and obviously there's a lot of visual metaphors there of the girl's skin peeling off and it exploding. A bomb being dropped on them, and even when he's in the boardroom or whatever later, getting interrogated and getting his fucking not license revoked, but you know what I mean. You remember the movie. His clearance revoked, I think you call it. Yeah, there's like a scene where he freaks out and that starts to get exploded, etc., etc. Oh, another one of the soy things is when we were cutting between scenes, but we were all explaining the same thing. That happened at some point, and I can't remember it. And it was a lot of people doing the shocked at Oppenheimer for figuring it out tone of voice, and it's like, it's so corny and stuff. But it's so good too. No, that part isn't good. The rest of the corny stuff is pretty good. That part was not good, where it's like, so you're saying that this, and then it'll cut to another person he's explaining it to who's also freaking out in the exact same way. It's like, oh my god, you're so smart. I don't know. It's just an interesting, entirely non-subvertive way to make a movie that I didn't think people genuinely still did. But here it was, and it was interesting to see, especially on such a massive blockbuster scale. It was like, because people criticize the Marvel movies for being too self-aware or whatever, but usually they're only self-aware in its comedy and in its structure, etc., and in the plights of its protagonists and even its villains. It is like sort of generic in a sense. But yeah, but even the way, like, if you think about how Iron Man would like process his regrets or whatever, it is a more self-aware, funny, not so down in the dumps way compared to how the characters in Oppenheimer do it. And it's, I don't know, taking yourself unabashedly seriously is something that's very easily mocked. And I sort of grew up in an age on the internet where it was very mocked like that. Especially to be genuine about anything was basically funny. But I think I have noticed a trend going into the 2020s where that has increasingly become the opposite, where people are sort of embracing it again. Like, wrestling fans are way less, like, I guess, insecure about their utter retardation. And this seems to be the case everywhere. Like, the red letter media wave of making fun of people for going to, like, that Star Wars celebration thing or whatever and calling them man children, etc. I think the vast majority, especially of pop culture and of just, like, normal people, think that that's, like, a cool thing now. And I think the sort of Marvel superhero type movie trend, and that becoming sort of the cool thing to be into, or sort of the normal thing to be into, has pushed us sort of in this direction. The part where this is all sort of coming back. We were very cynical throughout the 2010s. Everything was very subversive. Game of Thrones did that to us, or it was at least the biggest example of us doing that and enjoying that. But I don't know. I have no idea what Christopher Nolan movies were like during that period, if they were just like this, or how interesting. Cultural trends, etc., etc., defining the decade that's still got 7 years left. And because if you think back to 2013, which is the equivalent year, which is still the year my brain still thinks we are in, by the way, 2013. That's how you can tell I'm getting old. I'm going to die soon. The 2014 through 2019 is like one era to me. And like 2011 to 2013 is a different era. So, and the 2010s is kind of defined for me from that 2014 through 2019 period. So who knows what the era retroactively is going to be defined as, or if we look back on it as, and the music and the movies and the cultural tent pieces, etc., will be. I guess that's another interesting thing coming out of this whole saga is the Barbie thing, along with it, the Barbieheimer, or whatever the fuck people were calling it, where it is two movies that aren't superhero movies that everybody's sort of going to see and everybody's talking about. This is another thing the Red Letter Media guys championed in their video, even though in that Roe de Chanel video I did watch, it was she sort of makes the point, but that this isn't really, like, Barbie is obviously an incredibly well-known IP, and Christopher Nolan is an incredibly well-known director, so it's not like movies coming out of nowhere making all this money. But I guess it is not a superhero movie, which I guess people are happy about. I was thinking about that before I started recording too, and it was because of the that epic rap battle of history, because there is a line that Thanos says about like being a box office topper or whatever. And I'm like, man, this like Marvel shit is completely fallen off. Even like they are going to do another Avengers movie eventually. I think it's slated to happen, and it will be very interesting to see how much movie or how much of a cultural buzz that movie has, because I don't know. These Marvel movies are doing worse and worse, right? That's the big meme. I watched a film theory video about Disney movies not doing very well at all. Um, he tried to say it was because there was bad writing, which was funny. Um, and the same with Star Wars, etc. So it will be interesting if another Avengers comes and they really try to put like their everything behind it and see if I feel like everything did peak with the Thanos stuff, and now we're in the, well, what's going to be next? It was Harry Potter, then it was Marvel movies, and now what is it? Are we going to get shitty anime movies? Is that where we're going? Is that next? Is there going to be Naruto live action movies, and that's going to dominate? Who knows? Shout out Naruto in our Oppenheimer review. I wish I had better notes or more specifics or something. Remember where he meets the German guy at the beginning? That was pretty cool. I'm just trying to recall scenes now. I feel like we get to this point in every movie night, especially ones I don't have clearly structured notes for. But the soy and the making stuff or trying to figure stuff out porn were the two big points I really had coming out of the movie. The explosions and the spectacle were really cool, bro. When they actually did the Trinity thing and it was silent for like a minute, that was a cool choice. And then it sort of rushes up and hits you. Them doing that with explosions all the time was cool. I assume that's what explosions are like in real life, and they were flexing that knowledge on us. Because you would see the explosion, then the noise would come with the dust and stuff that would knock them over. Oh, another soy thing was like the bring the sheets in line. Like, oh, it's so corny, and then they used it twice. The first time it was pretty cute. The second time it was like, oh, okay. Oh, and the Einstein. I think that's an interesting idea. That's probably the most interesting original idea. Though I think there is a Mad Men line that encapsulates it exactly. Though I can't remember what it is. The Einstein thing about how they'll throw a party, but it'll be for them, not you. I think Don Draper finds himself in that position at some point. Or maybe that's a Sopranos thing. I can't remember. The same fucking show, you know? But yeah. That was a cool idea. And like Oppenheimer kind of being glad still to get the award or whatever, even though he remembers it, but his wife sort of seeing through it all and not being happy, and it's interesting. And obviously that ties into the Kennedy name drop, etc., etc. But yeah. I think I'm out of scenes to recall. Now, there were a lot of scenes. They go horse riding in New Mexico or whatever it was a bunch of times and go, oh yeah, that's another like soy thing. Like he's also a man of his environment, of the land, and he likes to go back to the land or whatever. And it's just like, it's just funny. It's just cute. Like these tropes that were outdated 30 years ago are here. Like the last 30 years didn't happen. Crazy. But I guess, yeah, it's just another 4-star movie. Not one that when's the next thing that I see and I'm going to be like, oh, that's one of my favorite things ever? When's that going to happen? Is that ever going to happen again? I guess with Devilman that happened, but that was a reread, and I was just like, oh, this is still really cool and a 5-star thing. But Devilman is like a low 5-star thing. When are we going to get the next Black Sails, you know? Or the next Casablanca, I guess, was technically the most recent one, but that's another low 5-star thing. First 45 minutes of Casablanca, greatest movie of all time. The rest of it is a bunch of plot, and it's like 4.5 stars. But I bump it up. The Crucible 2, I guess, that got 5 stars. That's a low 5 stars. Blonde, now that's a high 5 stars. The Crucible is a high 5 star too. They're both on the top 10 movie list of all time that you can find on my letterbox. Let's see if this sex French film about the Hiroshima will get there. It's got a better chance than Oppenheimer. It's got sex, and it's French, and it's black and white. Oppenheimer was black and white sometimes, just like Blonde. Remember that? Crazy. That's sick. I like the black and white sometimes thingy. Anywho, I think we're actually doing an outro now. We made it to like 40 minutes. That's crazy. I want to see Oppenheimer again. I probably won't, and probably not for many years, but I've been feeling this increasingly with all our most recent movie nights. It's like one day I'm going to rewatch these movies, and then we'll know what I really think about them. Because, watching something for the first time is like not even watching it. That's some fake shit. But knowing what it is and then going back into it and thinking about it as you're watching it and knowing where everything is going, now that's a real viewing experience. That's when you see the real fucking movie. So yes, one day we'll do movie night 2 and I'll be rewatching and redoing the reviews of all the movies in order. Wouldn't that be exciting and fascinating? What a crazy, wacky experiment that would be. Crazy. With that being said, what a yawn. What a movie night this has been. Scattered thoughts, etc. But yes, be back. In Chains of Man videos, I say next week, and that's usually correct. But movie night, who knows when the next one is? I kind of might watch that movie tonight, but that doesn't mean the movie night is going to be for immediate or anything like that. But watching movies is fun. That'll be our 15th episode. That's crazy. Anywho, anyhow, support links in the description below. Thanks.